During the X-Men vs. Avengers event, one-shot comics were produced that pitted single Avengers versus single X-Men. Now, while a lot of these were great stories, there was one that stood out as a bit of a surprise. That would be the AVX vs. Volume 1, Number 2. That pitted Spider-Man against Juggernaut and Steve Rogers against none other than Remy LeBeau, Gambit. Gambit has the unusual mutant ability to convert the potential energy stored in an object into kinetic energy, basically turning objects into explosives. But Captain America is Captain America. He's the guy. Sure, he has been beaten before, but he is not easy to bring down, and he honestly does not think much of the danger posed by this X-Man, which was a bit of a mistake. After failing the obvious tactic of using Cap's shield as a kinetic bomb, Gambit surprises Cap completely by charging Steve's armor and catching Steve off guard with a huge explosion. Now, when the dust settles, Gambit did nothing but get Cap's full undivided attention. Cap then rushes Remy using his shield to guard against Remy's charged playing cards and takes him out with a swift uppercut. But making Captain America realize that he underestimated you is still a pretty big thing. But that was far from the most surprising fight from Avengers vs. X-Men. For example, in AVX vs. Number 6, Domino draws the unlucky straw of facing off with the Red Hulk. Cap vs. Gambit was a fight we hadn't seen before, whereas Domino and Red Hulk had faced each other, sort of. Domino had found out the secret identity of the Red Hulk, and this prompted him to try and silence her permanently. That led to a chase across some rooftops, and Domino's luck-based powers caused a roof to give out under Red Hulk's feet, allowing her to escape. But here it is much different. Armed with a big old hammer, Domino in this fight seems to be filled with much more confidence than last time, but she also seems to have learned a trick regarding pressure points. Using 4 hits with her hammer on specific pressure points, Domino was able to bring down the Red Hulk. Now, I'm going to assume that her power played some part in actually being able to affect the Gamma Mutate's pressure points, which should be protected by his incredibly durable skin and super thick muscles. But now most would think that the Red Hulk would wipe the floor with Domino, but luck is one heck of a superpower. Next up, in Daredevil number 155, Daredevil is suffering from mysterious headaches that cause him to lash out at people for seemingly the smallest of reasons. In this case, Matt discovers that his ex, Black Widow, has returned to the Avengers, which for some reason ticks him off. So, Matt Murdock shows up at Avengers Mansion looking for revenge against Black Widow, and he does not care who gets in the way, because he will lay them all in the dirt with his fists. Daredevil managed to single-handedly stomp an assembled team of 3 powerful Avengers: Captain America, Beast, and even the strongest of the bunch, Hercules, a literal god. Daredevil manages to punch the lights out of Beast, deflect Captain America's shield into Hercules' face, and then redirect a lunging Captain America into a wall. Fortunately for Black Widow, Daredevil regains his self-control before he moves on to her, but for a guy with just enhanced senses, he made a mess of 3 powerful Avengers. During the original Secret Wars story in 1985, the Wasp has been shacking up with Magneto. Now, before you get the wrong idea, this is all a ruse so that she can figure out what the Master of Magnetism is actually up to. When he finally reveals that plan to the X-Men in issue number 7, Wasp immediately turns on Magneto and attacks him. Now, with the X-Men wishing to stop her from doing harm to Magneto, they jump in to defend him. Wasp immediately jumps in to attack them too, and she leads this fight with a big old kick straight to Wolverine's hairy little face. She then bounces off of him and lands solid hits on every single one of the X-Men before zipping out of there without even taking a hit. It really lends an explanation as for why the Wasp was leading the Avengers at this time, if anyone really needed to know why. As a bit of a surprise for this next one, Superman and Venom from Marvel Comics crossed paths in the DC/Marvel All Access crossover event in 1996 to 1997. This encounter occurred when the 2 universes merged temporarily, causing confusion and displacement among the various different characters. Venom found himself in Metropolis, wreaking havoc and searching for answers. Now, upon kidnapping a young woman, Superman intervened to try and rescue her. Their battle proved to be one of Superman's toughest challenges, resulting in one of his most humbling defeats. Venom matched Superman's incredible strength, withstanding the hero's attacks and even immobilizing and blinding Superman with webbing, leaving him really vulnerable. Superman, using his heat vision to free himself, pursued Venom, and while Superman landed punches, Venom remained pretty much unaffected. expected. With a vendetta against both Superman and Spider-Man, Venom nearly smothered Superman with his tendrils, pushing the hero to the brink of defeat. It actually took the combined efforts of Superman, Spider-Man, and the Access, a multi-dimensional hero, to finally defeat Venom, with Access utilizing a sonic generator to exploit the symbiote's sonic vulnerability. Venom was ultimately vanquished, but not before showing that Superman had absolutely no idea how to handle the symbiote. Similar to that though, in 1981's DC Special Series number 27, Batman finds himself facing off against none other than Marvel's Green Goliath, the Incredible Hulk. In the story, the Joker had managed to trick the Hulk into believing that Batman was an enemy, which given the Hulk's level of intelligence is not that hard to do, and let's be honest, it's just a hand-wavy setup to have the Dark Knight fight the Hulk. So it's Bruce against Bruce. During the fight, the Hulk ended up getting the Dark Knight in a massive bear hug where he almost broke the Bat's back. But because he's Batman, Wayne manages to bust out of the hold and uses knockout gas on the monster. Now, if this were a normal Marvel comic, I doubt that the Hulk would be even susceptible to knockout gas, but whatever. In this instance, to avoid being knocked out, the Hulk decides to just hold his breath to hold on to his consciousness until Batman, a regular dude I'll remind you, kicks the Incredible Hulk straight in the stomach, which somehow knocks the wind out of the Green Giant and causes him to breathe in the gas, giving Batman the win. I don't know how I feel about this one, you let me know in the comments because... Now I know this list is about surprising outcomes, but everything about this next one is surprising. In a crossover between the X-Men and Star Trek of all things, our lovely short angry Canadian, Wolverine, faced off against the cool as a cucumber, Mr. Spock. However, saying faced off is kind of giving Wolverine too much credit. Upon boarding the Starship Enterprise, Wolverine, ever the guy to act first and think later, moved to attack Mr. Spock, only to discover that Spock not only knew who Wolverine was, but he also discovered the effects of the Vulcan nerve pinch. In literally one quick move, Spock used the nerve pinch to knock Wolverine to the ground almost instantly. It's another case of skill winning out against brute strength. Now, sure, the very premise of this comic would make even Mr. Spock raise that famous eyebrow, but given how often the Enterprise ends up in alternate dimensions, it's not that outlandish. Now, to be fair, this next point isn't exactly a fight in the strictest sense of the word. It also ended with the quickness of a speeding bullet, quite literally. In Sins of Sinister number 1, Mr. Sinister corrupts the X-Men with a virus, turning them into partial clones of himself. After corrupting most of Marvel's mutants, Mr. Sinister looks into the future, revealing a 5-year plan where his influence has basically drastically changed the Marvel universe. Among those infected by his actions is the Juggernaut. Now, knowing that it was only a matter of time until the Mad Titan Thanos makes another attack on the Earth, Sinister came up with a plan. After psychically manipulating the Juggernaut, who essentially cannot be stopped once he is set in motion, he is then loaded into a temporal cannon crafted by Forge and miniaturized. Then, Hope Summers, stealing the luck-based powers of Domino, fires Kane Marco from the cannon, sending him through the time stream to the moment that Thanos begins his attack. Moving at incredibly fast speeds and down to the size of basically an action figure, the Juggernaut goes blasting right through Thanos' brain, wiping him out cold. Unfortunately for the Juggernaut, he is then left hurtling through space and time endlessly, unable to stop. These days, the Guardians of the Galaxy member Mantis is known for her MCU portrayal by Pom Klementieff. Now, it's true that everyone loves that version of the character, but her comic book counterpart is significantly more dangerous and capable. And to prove that, we are going to look at the Celestial Madonna saga, which is admittedly a little too complex to break down, but what you need to know is Mantis comes to believe the Avengers are preventing her from achieving her cosmic destiny. Now, among the gathered Avengers is Thor, the god of thunder. Taking place in Avengers number 114, Mantis and Swordsman take on the entirety of the Avengers, which is impressive enough. But for her part, Mantis manages to bring down the Asgardian hero herself with a swift nerve punch to the neck, which makes him go unconscious. What's even crazier is that she does this exact same thing a couple of issues later, only this time Thor doesn't actually go completely lights out. Don't underestimate Mantis, yo. She's nuts. And finally, we're switching to the DC universe. The Injustice comics are packed with intense battles, but the confrontation between Wonder Woman and Superman in the 8th issue of Injustice Gods Among Us Year 4, orchestrated by Batman, is particularly memorable. Due to a deal struck up with the gods that is then refused and countered by Wonder Woman, who is working alongside Superman, instead she demands a trial by combat, and after Superman volunteers to represent his side, Wonder Woman is chosen by Batman as the combatant to face Superman. Now, being a warrior born in a fight to the death, she is honor bound to go all in, and she does. It is a brutal showdown. Now, the two warriors initially appear pretty evenly matched, but then Superman gains the upper hand. Despite Superman's plea for Diana to surrender, her refusal to yield becomes his downfall. Wonder Woman intensifies her assault, leveraging her superior combat skills and exploiting Clark's moment of hesitation. Wonder Woman gouges Superman's eyes, and in a swift move she completely shatters his arm at the elbow with a strong elbow of her own, marking one of the most brutal conclusions to their long-standing history of clashes. Despite Superman's desperate attempts to retaliate, deploying literally all of his powers, he is relentlessly overpowered and ultimately knocked out cold by Wonder Woman. But that is the list. Thank you guys so much for watching on Top 10 Nerd. I'm Adam Andrews. I'll catch you all on the flippy flop, so stay safe and peace out, nerds.